It's been nearly 5 months since Russia invaded Ukraine, and in addition to the staggering human losses, the United Nations estimates more than 150 cultural sites in Ukraine have been damaged or destroyed. Now there's an effort underway, more than 6,000 miles away, to preserve Ukraine's digital cultural legacy. John Blackstone has the story from San Francisco.
From her crowded home office in Berkeley, California, Quinn Dombrowski has been drawn into the war in Ukraine. Her mission is to help preserve Ukrainian culture by rescuing Ukrainian websites.
We've been crawling through all the sites that have been registered in Ukraine to look for cultural heritage sites.
Dombrowski, an academic technology specialist at Stanford University, is one of 3 co-founders of what they call SUCHO, for Saving Ukrainian Cultural Heritage Online. I thought now everything lived in the cloud. Why do you have to rescue this?
Well, so it's easy to forget that ultimately the internet comes down to physical things. Servers are physical things that can be destroyed, just as much as statues. Servers have to be connected to the internet via cables. They need power, they need cooling. And all of these are just as much at risk as any other thing in the physical world.
Their group now has more than 1,000 volunteers around the world using their own computers to identify and preserve Ukrainian websites that could be lost forever.
Everything we find, we send to the Internet Archive to capture via the Wayback Machine.
So the Wayback Machine is basically a time machine for the web.
Mark Graham is director of the Wayback Machine at the Internet Archive in San Francisco.
It's why this organization was created in the first place, was to provide a forever home to the material that human beings are creating about themselves, about their world, and trying to share with others.
The Internet Archive is housed in a former San Francisco church. The pews are still there, but so are banks and banks of computer servers, recording not just Ukrainian websites, but others from around the world. They've been doing this for 26 years, with an understanding of how vulnerable digital records can be.
Digital artifacts in many ways are much more fragile than their analog equivalent. Books, for example, generally speaking, were printed en masse. So if one library burns down, the tragedy that may be, there's other libraries. With digital material, it's often not like that.
Buildings at risk of Russian bombardment in Ukraine include museums, libraries, and schools. Places where, in peacetime, computers are used every day, but in wartime, may be among the forgotten casualties.
Things like children's libraries where they have poems written by the young patrons. And the interesting thing about those sites is that they're not digitized versions of physical objects. What's digital is all there is. These were only ever digital photos and digital poems. And so I'm glad that we have a copy of those so that if the site goes down, there's some way to preserve it.
With her 8-year-old son, Sam, helping, Dombrowski has made a special effort to save the creations of Ukraine's children.
There was one site that had photos from literally days before the war when they had an art project for the children with the title of "I'm Ukrainian and that sounds proud." And it's pictures that someone took on their cell phone of children painting sunflowers and maps of Ukraine. And when the war is over and it's safe to rebuild, we can give that back and the memory will continue.
For all that has been lost in Ukraine, the digital records being saved by volunteers far away promise someday to be one building block for recovery. For CBS Saturday Morning, John Blackstone, San Francisco.
One person making such a big difference.
I was going to make that point.
So concerned for her.
The value of these volunteers, underscoring that servers are the key if you want to preserve what's online.
Because we think about the cloud and it feels infinite, but it's not, because it's based on actual servers that take up space here on Earth.
Yeah.
So it's just like incredible to think about that. It's, we think of digital copies as backups, but
And she's committed. She's got the hair, she's got the shirt, she's got the glasses.
The sunflowers that you pointed out.
Yeah, she had the national flower of Ukraine in her house. That's right.